Whoops, I can't start it. That's no good. So we're coming. There's Secret Cove. Well, g'day everybody. So our little intro locked up then, and it's now 1 minute past 8, so I'm reasonably on time. And it's the 30th of July, one more day, and then it's the day after that's the 1st. So we're into August already. That's crazy. And we've got a real boat race happening at the moment. The southwesterlies turned up. The skies are probably clear, and they'll be having a great time. So a couple of things to talk about. I'm going to talk about the Seldon mast. We've had some more things going on with Seldon mast, and we're investigating that. No disasters or anything like that, but certainly some interesting conclusions about builders of the boats and where they're bolting things onto the boats, and also having done quite a few rig servicing sessions here with Sammy the rigger, great guy. We learnt some more about the rigs and how they interface with the boat, so we're going to talk about that a bit in a minute, straight after the tracker. Okay, Jonathan, that means everything's working. So we'll do the tracker first, then we'll talk about Seldon rigs, and then we'll answer any questions and stuff. So straight into the tracker. It's on the side here, so you're looking at the tracker. Now I'm looking at the tracker. With that delayed intro, some of the people are going to miss out. So the leaderboards now are correct. Okay, so VMGs are correct. All those sorts of things are all in positive numbers. However, it's suggesting, unless there's some big currents there, that we are doing 7.9 knots and 8 knots and so on. So let's have a look. There could well be current there. In fact, just out of curiosity, because I just noticed that, having said in the last 4 hours, we were actually looking good. Well, yeah, there might be some currents there, but there's a couple of knots. Maybe, I'm not sure. We'll analyse that in detail in a minute. There is a current stream there, which is favourable. Maybe it's stronger than it's suggesting, because up here you can see in the purples and stuff, they're pretty strong. You know, that's running in towards, if you remember, if we go down to the key here, that's coming towards 1 to 1.2 knots in the purple, so maybe it's just not reading right. But if they're parked back here, we're not expecting it. So I'll hold my breath. In the meantime, we'll go back to the wind here, and there we go. We'll now bounce it up if I get up to the right level there. Just remember, you can get online on the website and get to this yourself and have a play anytime you want. The controls are pretty generic and, you know, not too complicated to understand. You probably see what I'm doing, but there we go. So here we are. Interesting thing here with Christian. I'm not sure what he's thinking, but obviously he's going to go through underneath the main islands of Vanuatu, and that's interesting in itself, because if you've got a southeasterly and it's not strong, you do get a wind shadow here. You can see there distinctly the warm air of the land and all that sort of stuff, the land heating up. It distorts the trade winds, and this is more or less part of a trade wind situation. If we open it right up, and we'll see what's going on at the bottom there. You can see it's generally above 20 degrees south. Is 20 degrees south, so this is generally where the trade winds are, and it's southeasterly, so you've got to say that's southeasterly trade winds. speaking state. And you do get this wind shadow, and you'll see when the fleet comes across here, they're going to be impacted with that wind shadow, which will slow them down, and that's a distance probably of about 80 miles or something, maybe even more. No, 180 miles, so it's bigger than I thought. So you can say over that period, you know, maybe up to 200 miles, you historically will get a lighter wind gradient, right, in the lee of the islands. Now, Christian's coming down the bottom here. If you go through that, you're not going to get that, because there's a big gap between New Caledonia and Vanuatu. So it might not have been a dumb idea to come down here to stay away from that. To sail through the islands is a nightmare down here, because you're basically right in amongst it. Here you can at least, at the top, I'll come back to that. I'm talking without remembering you're looking. Like, you go through the islands here, and you can see you've got more than the wind shadow, you've got no wind. right? So you don't usually go through there. Mark's going through, but he's got an engine, so he can just keep it moving. But the others will no doubt go over the top. Christian here, he hasn't been going fast because of the boat was out of balance. He's not in the groove, whatever. But that may have been another option. Kerry's always gone. He's gone far north, but he's going to have to come down a little bit now. He doesn't want to get too far up the top, but he's an individual, and he always goes out on a blinder to at least give him the chance of making the most of some weather opportunity. But now, let's wait and see what happens there. So my cursor's my touchpad on the computer's playing up. But anyway, so Christian is doing 4.6 knots, and he did an 89 nautical mile day. That's okay, pretty much parallel to the run line, so it's still reading correctly. Ayrton's lagging behind the rest of the fleet at the moment, doing 4.8, 74 mile day. He sent me a message yesterday off through our zoo, just saying, we were parked, just watching Netflix, waiting for the breeze, all that sort of stuff. So he's very much a Starlink man if he's got the power. And Adam, is there no one else there? Yeah, Adam is doing 4.6, did a 71 nautical mile day. Jasmine just did a nice video. So she said, I'm not going to stress myself about the speed. I'm moving along okay. I got a message from Jasmine's mum just saying that I got confused when they were talking about the problem with the rudder. Her mum was suggesting that it's actually the bearings on the main rudder, but I'll talk about that after when we get there. But I think I better remember that's a discussion subject. Anyway, she's doing okay at the moment, very relaxed, having a nice time in the groove. She's recovering from hectic days in Fiji, both working on the boat. She did do a lot of things and trying to squeeze in as much holiday time as possible, all over the place, doing fun stuff. So she's enjoying actually getting back into the groove of sailing, because they've got a long way, 10,000 miles. So Gary, up there with the mid group, enjoying the ride, obviously 4.2 knots, 93 mile day, and Jazz only did an 82, so taking out 10 miles. Eric is doing 4.6, 81 mile day, and if we come across here to Josh is up there, 5.2, 93, so he's getting close to leading the middle pack. Peeler, she's doing 5.1, 95 mile day, a little bit more pressure than Josh. And Jacob sticking on there with Peeler, doing 98 mile day, 5.1. He's absolutely racing, and hopefully he's got over his ear infection now. That would have cost him a little bit of distance, because as much as you want to try and perform when you're sick and you've got pain and feeling off and things like that, it does affect your speed. So, but he's still right up there. He's in front of a lot of boats. Early days yet, but that's all looking good. And then over here we've got Kerry. Now this will be interesting, because I'm going to give you the distance to the finish, which is all working right. 4.9 knots, 85 mile day, not as big as some of the others. 9,042, let's call it 43. I know, I'll call it 42, give him a bit extra. 9,042 to the finish, okay? And Daniel Turner, now being overtaken by Renault, is 9,025. Kerry was 9,042. So there you've got 17 miles difference. So Kerry's coming third, Daniel's coming second, and Renault is 5.7 knots and 105 mile day. What's that tell you? He's got the fastest speed for the day. He's working hard. Dan sent a little video back, or a photo, I think, saying he was putting some pressure on Dan, and he wasn't able to keep up. So there you go. Renault now moves into the lead again, and it's pretty much, I'll call this the formation of a lead pack. Lead pack at the moment I'd define as Renault, Dan and Kerry, with Peeler right on the edge of it. But then there's Peeler and Josh is hanging in there. So if we look at just look at their distances, so near enough to 9,020 for Renault. That's easy to remember. Josh is only 30, 40, 50, 37 miles behind. Okay, so about 7 hours behind at those sorts of speeds, which is really not too bad. So they all want to try and hang on to each other so that they don't lose touch going around the top. But Let's look at the weather forecast now for the next couple of days. And here we go, on there. So we can push this through. It's generally holding pretty much the same. Yeah, plenty of breeze there. You can still see the wind shadow. That wind shadow is moving over the top of Santo there. I've got to check that. I haven't mentioned that island for 20 years. But anyway, top of the Vanuatu group, the wind shadow is moving around, but it's still there. So here we go. We've gone through the first 24 hours. So they'll keep sailing, and then that wind shadow, oops, there's no wind down the bottom now. So, Christian, don't get too excited. There's a big trough there of no wind. So being up high might have been the way to go. A bit of speculation there. So there's still going to be, and then the wind shadows, it's still there, but it's soft. So they've got a slow ride for the next couple of days, through to the 1st of August. But it's still pretty good, and Christian's not going to be sitting there for long. And that as they arrive, or they're going past it, they're going to get through the shadow because it's gone to the east. So that's all good. And let's just look at the leaderboard now. So these guys are doing 100 miles a day, so they're only averaging 5 knots. There doesn't seem to be a big current there, so maybe the VMG is actually not quite right. But the distance, anyway, I think they made good. Yeah, it's very high. Oh, I know what it is. They've obviously corrected this pathway through the last 24 hours. That's why it's still a bit distorted on the speeds. So there were some issues there. So we need to wait until tomorrow to see if that's all settled down, and then we're fine. Looking at there's no point looking at the ETAs. There's not a lot of information here that's really useful at this moment because you've got all the stopovers to go. But if they were sailing this speed all the way through, they'd be their estimated time to finish 15th of September. But they've got, well, actually, I can add the times up. We've got effectively 8 days, and then 8 days, 16, then 3 to 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and then another 8 days, 9 days, so that's 30 near enough. Then I'm doing some mental calculations here, and then that's 30, 38, and 15, 48. Yeah, you got to add on about 48, maybe 50 days onto that, so not quite 2 months. September, October, November, 15th of November at these speeds, but that's a 7.9, so it doesn't work. I just wasted your time and my time. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on it. It'll be interesting later on. And the currents we've already had a look. We don't need to look at that, so I think I'm done here. Okay. I'm coming back. Hit that one there. Hit this one here. Okay. We'll hide messages from stream. Okay, so let's just talk about the rigs and the Seldon rigs. I think most of you know there were some issues with the spreaders, where the spreader connects to the mast, if I call that the mast, and the spreaders here. And they've been moving fore and aft for various reasons, and it's cracked the bases of the spreader extrusion. Now, the extrusion fits over a little thing that sticks out. I always get in trouble with that. I call it a dick. But anyway, a little dick sticking out, and the spreader drops onto that, and it has a pin through it. And so the spreader extrusion can actually wobble a bit on the stainless steel mount that's actually through the mast that they slip onto. So in itself, a slight cracking at the base of the spreader where it comes in, it's moving like this. It's not the end of the world. It's still structurally sound, but you don't want it to move too much, and it shouldn't crack. And what we found is, if I show you that there are different pieces of rigging on a yacht, okay, you've got the mast there, and the cap shrouds go from the masthead down to the spreader and then down to the deck, right? Yeah, I didn't have my glasses. Yeah, okay, I just got a funny comment. It's raining, that's why it's grey, and the washing's not dry. That's why I don't have an MGR shirt on. So this is one of my Fiji shirts. And I've got yellow glasses. I've got 2 sets of glasses. Anyway, thank you. So the cap shroud goes from the masthead down to the end of the spreaders and down to the deck. Everyone knows that. They're swept back spreaders. And I'm going to just give you the whole story here. I've got on Tracker, I got a Sparcraft mast. Okay. And I actually took Tracker to the rigger, to the mast manufacturer factory, so they could measure up the chain plates. So there's a chain plate on the stem of the boat, which takes the forestay, and there are two chain plates, port and starboard, aft of the mast base, where the swept-back spreaders come out and the cap shrouds connect to those spreaders, and also the lowers. That's a wire that goes from those chain plates up to the base of the spreaders at the mast. And when we fitted the chain plates, we did it exactly per the plan, exactly the way we measured it off the plan. Okay, and they were able to measure it up. They designed the rig, and my Sparcraft rig on Trekker is absolutely perfect. Right, super strong, twice the price, but that's what I wanted for around the world and all that sort of stuff. And that's how it worked. Now with the Seldon rig, we gave them the plans and we've given them the basic design of the mast, and then they put it through a computer and do all the measurements, make it all up, and then having done all that, they're mass produced. So we were ordering 10 masts at a time, and it kills the cost. When you can lay a section down and you have a robot, a CNC machine comes on, brrr, drills every hole in the mast, cuts out all the little bits for the fittings that go on, and same with the boom, everything's identical. You've got the exact measurement of the wire rigging. They make up sets, and you kill the price. When we built Sparcraft's Trekker one, it's a much higher specification, much stronger. Everything about it is more sophisticated engineering. Blah 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 blah. It's tapered, with a tapered mast. If you look at the top of that on Trekker, but you pay the price. And I was happy to do that. I like the guys at Sparcraft. I like the guys at Seldon as well. It's not a problem. But at the time, there was another reason Seldon weren't answering comms, and so we couldn't get masts, and I was in a hurry. I was the first one, so it was a no-brainer, and I wanted to do that anyway. So, what happened was when we actually did the rigging here, the rigger was the first one to pick it. And I'll tell you what happens with me. Every time I looked at one of the Seldon rigs, I thought, geez, the spreaders are so flimsy. They just look flimsy. It just didn't seem, And anyway, we replaced the standing rigging, and Sammy comes up and says, hey, something's gone wrong. The chain plate's in the wrong spot, or whatever, because the cap shrouds, if you look across the boat, so imagine we're looking across the beam of the boat right now, and here's the mast there, right? The cap shrouds are meant to come from the top of the mast down to the end of the spreaders, and then vertically, parallel to the mast, straight down to the deck, right? But what we discovered is they're not going straight down to the deck. They're actually going forward, right? So they're angling forward. And it was a real surprise to everyone. No one had actually noticed it. And as soon as he said it, I looked at Jacob's rig and I thought, you're kidding me. It is actually going forward a lot, okay? So then we thought, oh, that's interesting. I mean, it's not a disaster because the rigs are strong and it's only, it's not affecting the load too much. But you could fix it in a couple of ways. First of all, you could make sure that the chain plates are in the right place, and I put a question mark on that at the moment. And secondly, if that was in the right place and the spreaders are there, you can shorten the spreaders, because if you shorten the spreaders, you're actually bringing the tip. Here's the mast. I should be doing this with diagrams, but I haven't at the time. Here's the mast coming down to the end of the spreader. If it goes forward, you can see if you shorten the spreader, it's going to go to the end of the spreader and it'll bring it easier in line. So then what I decided to do, I thought, we're not going to be moving chain plates on boats, this, that, and the other. I said, right, I want a standard database for all of the boats. So I made it a requirement for all of the boats here, the 15 boats, to actually measure the distance from the stem fitting and the stem head chain plate where the forestay attached to. If that's the forestay, I've asked them to measure around the hull deck join to the spreaders, a distance, both sides. Obviously, they should be the same. Okay. Then you'd put a baseline across between the two chain plates like this, and from the center line, I want a distance for the mast base, how far forward from the mast base this way, and how far from the stem back again, so that we can define exactly the position of the mast, first of all, because you imagine if the chain plate's in the right position, but the mast base is in the wrong position, that affects it as well. And the difference between each of the boats is like, are you kidding me? This is amazing. There is substantial differences, and I won't go into the fine detail, between where builders are putting their mast and where they're putting their chain plates. So it begs the question, and this is what will happen. I'm preempting this. I haven't spoken to Seldon at all yet. I need to find out what is the baseline data that Seldon used to develop the rig, because we gave them the plans from Janis, Medersky, the designer who designed the rig, because there's something going wrong there, and it's not disastrously wrong. But we'll be sending a builder's update out probably tomorrow, just saying no builder should attach any chain plates on any more boats until we give you the defined position for, and it's on the plans already, but people are reading the plans differently, to make sure that first of all the chain plates are going to be put into the right position. And then we'll talk to Sparcraft, because personally, as a complete amateur, right, I just look at the rig and think the chain plates are too long. They've obviously used a different position for the attachments of the chain plates, which should be, for those spreaders, they should be actually further aft, right? And they're not. So, and then the position of the mast, the builders put a latitude. Some of it's like this big difference. It doesn't look like a lot, but when you're actually then putting a rig on, it can be substantial. So there's a bit of a thing going on there with the masts, and we just remind the builders and people that are watching this, you're not compelled to buy a Seldon mast, right? It's an option. You can actually build your own mast if you want. All the details are there on all the fittings to manufacture your own fittings on the mast. All you have to do is use an approved section, and we are only approving certain sections. So in other words, if a rigger in a country wants to build masts, they've got to apply to get that mast section and boom section approved. It costs them 160 euro or something. And once, it's for us to analyse it, check it's all correct, and then give them the certification to supply sections 4 or 580. And then they've also got to agree to sell raw sections to anyone that wants to build a mast. So if we've got anyone selling a section and building a rig, they've got to also agree to sell a section to someone who wants to build their own. Or you can, the only two masts that are approved at the moment are Sparcraft and Seldon. Now, having said that, one builder went and organised their own Sparcraft mast from a Sparcraft supplier, and it was wrong. It shouldn't be approved. We subsequently, retrospectively approved it because there was a few things they did or one thing in particular they did, which wasn't approved, right? Seldon in France, in La Rochelle, that mast is approved, right? And Sparcraft in La Rochelle, that mast is approved. And Seldon in France, that mast is approved, right? So there's a few things. We're not trying to close up the market. We just want to make sure it's right. There is sections approved out of Poland as well for those that want to build their own mast, but no one's wanted to build their mast at the moment. So an interesting story, and it's ongoing, but it's not a problem. All the rigs on the boats are safe. They're really strong. This is fine detail, but we've now got, it's heading towards 100 active builders, and we've got, I think we've gone through 30 rigs or something. So there's another 70 rigs or something coming up in the future. So in fact, it's more than 30. So we want to get it right now because we've discovered something very interesting. So all part of the fun. Okay. I meant to have a picture there for that. Here's the culprit. You can see there on Dan's boat, you've got the spreaders are slightly, or not the culprit, Dan's boat's fine, I'm just using this as the first picture I grabbed to show you the rig. And you can see the cap shroud, or you can't see my mouse, but you can see the chain plates back there. The chain plates just after the mast on the gunnel is taking the cap shrouds and then the lowers as well, going up to the base of the spreaders. And you can't detect it there. In fact, I can detect just a little bit of a squeak. Sounds funny, but I can look at that and say, it's a bit hard because you don't know the angle of the photograph. It's a bit unfair, but yeah, it's very pronounced on some boats that the cap is going forward once it goes through the spreader, and that's putting a different torsional load on the base of the spreader. It's all these compounding issues. Every little thing affects something else. So we want to get it right, but no one's concerned at all about the boats going forward. It's not as if they're unsafe, and it's not as if the rigs aren't going to work. They're all managed. It's all perfectly strong, so all is good. Okay, so we'll leave it at that. I'll come back to comments here. G'day, Jonathan. Anita, certainly an excellent sailing race and fleet's forgiveness. Yep, it's going to be fun, this one, because there's so many more challenges ahead. Quite cool. Really enjoyed Gary's boat tour, excellent craftsmanship. Yeah, if you missed it, we finally got the press release done. I didn't have too many people complaining that we did cover the start at the very beginning, but the press release out there, and we did Gary's boat tour, which is great. We didn't get to do the Holiday Dan interview. He was with his family, and we didn't want to put any pressure in. And you all know pretty much about him, but he was squeezing every moment out of the holiday. And the amazing thing was his. It was his mum. His mum. Oh, jeepers, I've got to be careful. One of the family members had never been out of Australia before, and was having a ball. The Nikki's mum, that's what it was. Yeah, because that's right. So Nikki's mum was over here as well. So they had the whole family having an absolute ball, and we'll be doing interviews again in Cape Town. So stand by. Okay. Really enjoy Gary. Yeah, Gary built a great boat. Nice color coordinated specs. Yeah, cool, baby. Anyway, not quite at the mast stage yet with number 235, but useful to know. Yeah, so there'll be a builder's update coming out in the next day or two. So if you're building, don't bolt your chain plates on yet. Builder John, wow, interesting mast issue. Yeah, it's not a drama, but it's interesting how it evolved. Absolutely. Please remember to like this live stream. Oh, good on you, Jonathan. Yes. Please like, share, tell all your mates, and if you're on Facebook, absolutely join up, because it's still only running about 25% or something. People that are following have actually liked it, so we've got a much bigger following in reality. YouTube's died off a bit. I'm not sure what's going on there. Something going on with the algorithms, but and you can check out. Jane didn't do a video daily update, compiling all the videos together from the entrance yesterday, because we did the press release, but we'll do today. There's some cool videos there, but you can see them straight away on the entrance posts on their own social media. Dan, Canadan has actually retired from the race. He's had a health issue, and for now the boat is parked on the hard here in Vuda. It came out of the water a couple of days ago. Dan flies back to Canada tonight, and let's just wait and see what happens over the next few weeks. But yeah, our thoughts are with Dan. He's obviously disappointed, and we miss him already, because it was fun having another Dan in there for a start. But he had visions of getting into that lead group and giving him some hurry up. Okay, we're done, I think. So we'll see you tomorrow. I don't think I've got an out video, but we'll just see what happens. Otherwise, I'm just going to sign off. See you later. There it is, but I can't start it. I'm not sure what's going on there. Okay, I'll show you. Secret code. See you later.